Good morning to everyone and welcome to the City of Florence to our update. First, I want to thank everyone, especially our citizens who have been so patient and working with the city as we identified the issues that are related to our city experiencing some low water pressures. I do want to acknowledge the various partners who have worked so faithfully with us, but most importantly, first of all, to our city manager, our directors, and our City of Florence staff, who on Christmas weekend became aware of this issue, and they went out in our community to start to solve the solution, especially to the employees who literally were at their Christmas gatherings, also at the Christmas dinners. But when they received that call that there was an issue, they got up, got out, got dressed, and started to serve the citizens. So to you, our employees, thank you. And I want everyone to be aware that on Christmas Day, many employees was coming in at 4 o'clock, and they continued to work to after midnight to the day after Christmas. But not only that, they worked to after midnight. They proceeded to come back in that Monday morning to work again. Not only that, they've worked through the night many last night, and they're out there today, still serving the citizens of Florence. But I thank you for being understanding. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to our employees who have been so faithful to be sure that they can provide the highest quality of life for us, the citizens of Florence. I do want to acknowledge some of the groups that we work with AECON, Consulting Engineer. They were here on day one to help us with the problem of looking at whether anything structural there. Then also as of today, we have CDM, Smith Consulting Engineers. We also have a leak detection assistance coming from the South Carolina Rural Water Association. We also, since day one, have been working with the Complete Utility, which are contractors. Thank you especially to the following of our City of Florence, our City of Florence Police, City of Florence Fire, City of Florence Finance, which is also our meter reader techs who've been out, looking at the meters, also identifying leaks. Then the City of Florence, our engineers, and also the City of Florence Utilities, who go out there, find these issues with these lines. These are the ones you see digging into the ground, going into that cold area to repair things for us. Thank you. But not only that, I know you're probably thinking, where are we at now? We did identify some leaks, and I will also, in a few moments, call for Director Mr. Michael Hemingway, who I say is the brains of the operation, who can give you that detail of that one drop of water that might be going someplace in that system that it should not be, or if it's not there. So when I get finished, I will call him for our detailed questions. But we did have a 6-inch water main issue, which was a leak. But we also found that there was problems within private businesses where you had some issues with leaks with sprinklers. Also within various homes, private residents, and also lines on the sides of our citizens' property that contributed to that. And I will encourage all our citizens to continue to watch for leaks. We've had some areas that have some vacant homes that have experienced these leaks. Some have really had a large amount in the yard. That's a contributing factor. So please, citizens of Florence, please continue to watch for leaks. Please continue to report that, because our citizens have been so faithful to notify us of those leaks, and that has helped as well. But I do want you to know that when it comes to communication from the city, please, if you haven't already, if you're on social media, like the City of Florence Facebook page. Go to thecityoflorence.com, because we give frequent updates on those sites. If you're not receiving information, that we've not sent out a press release yet, go to our site, go to Facebook, check and like our page. You will receive updates there, real-time updates. So please, not just for this situation, but ongoing, please like the City of Florence Facebook page, and also go to our City of Florence website. And I would especially like to give a thanks out to our Florence County Emergency Management, who've worked with us, and not only that, they've communicated with the South Carolina Emergency Management. But know that when you think about where we're at now, we have lost water pressure. We have not lost water. So one of the things that, in correlation with them, we're seeing if there's any kind of support that they can provide. But a lot of the support now is going to cities that are in worse condition than we are, such as if you think about Mississippi, places that truly have lost water, our water is undrinkable. So we're in a low water pressure system, which is coming up and stabilizing. So we're not at that point that we were qualified to need the things that you find coming from the South Carolina Emergency Management. But also, I would like to thank all of the city staff, but I want to also point out that Director Michael Hemingway, as well as Director Jerry Dudley, have been in frequent daily communication with our major medical centers. So know that we have these communications to be sure that your medicines, your service can still be provided because they need water. And also, we've been in communication with Florence School District 1 because we found some leaks at some of the properties there. So that's, again, we're working with our partners to identify any issues that maybe contribute to the low water pressures. And also, in general, I just want to thank you and know that we're continuing to work on the issue. And I'm hoping by now, as Mr. Hemingway is going to come forward and talk with you, to let you know that the water pressure as of last night started to stabilize and started to increase. But I'm going to ask Mr. Michael Hemingway to please come forward now. And as I step aside for Mr. Hemingway, I want to say thank you, not only to you, but also your team. Because we have a city here that every department worked together so well.
Yes, ma'am.
But to all the ones who were out there in this cold, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Good morning. Once we received notification from our city manager, Randy Osman, staff were called in and we began doing the investigation of the system. We didn't lose any water plant production facilities. We did have some facilities that were offline, so once we got the notification that we were losing pressure, then we began to turn on water facilities that were not operating at that time. And they were not operating because the demand wasn't there prior to the leaks occurring for us to require those facilities to produce potable water for the system. And then once that occurred, we put staff in the field, and then we started investigating the entire system to determine and assess if we had any identified major or significant leaks within the water distribution system. To this point, we've only identified one major water main break, and that was on Scriven Drive, and that was repaired yesterday. But also in that process of going out and investigating the system, we've identified, as Mayor Urban said, issues that some of the public school system in Florence School District 1 and private businesses that closed for the holidays with their fire lines breaking or being broken because they had froze over during that process. So we are still out investigating and going around and looking at businesses that are still closed to make sure they have their facilities are okay, or if they do have any water that's been leaving those facilities, we can do an emergency turn off and cut water off to those particular facilities. Last night, the system started to stabilize based on the production that we had from our water facilities, and the pressures recharged back to normal. This morning, we started receiving updates at 5 a.m., and the pressures were still stabilized from what they had done last night. And the latest results just came in at 11 o'clock, and the pressures are still stabilized at 11 a.m. this morning. So we are still continuing. Right now, we got our automated system that we can look at 84 pressure sensor location in the system from our computer system. And then we've also placed 10 additional pressure systems in the system that where we can get gaps that where the automated systems are not presently located at. And everything is holding within the system right now. So we've gone through our early morning rush of folks getting up, taking showers, doing breakfast, and businesses open up, because that's a peak demand use part of the day. And also because we stabilized during the night and maintained this morning, we have staff that is out in the field collecting bacteriological samples, and those will be read early in the morning, and then we prayerfully and hopefully will be able to release the bottled water advisory tomorrow morning and resume back to normal operation. And the bottled water advisory is just a precaution. We didn't completely zero out the entire system, but by regulatory control by DHEC, once you get water pressure below 20 psi, then you have to issue the bottled water advisory as precaution. So that was issued as precaution to the system, even though there are certain parts of the system that did not experience any pressure drop off during that process. So that was just a precaution to make our citizens aware. So we are still out this morning, and we'll continue to be out looking at vacant or empty homes, and where we do find leaks, staff will be cutting those particular businesses and homes off and they'll be leaving door hangers to let folks know exactly what's going on if someone is not available to speak to staff when they identify a broken leak at residence and business locations today. And that kind of gets us up to speed of where we're at right now. If there are any questions from anybody. Yes, sir.
Is there a possible way to maybe have this not happen again? Is there precautions that people can take at businesses and homes?
On the private side, what we can do is whenever we get into a point where we got a major weather situation where there's going to be a freeze, you can drip your water, both your cold and your hot water side, to where there's a frequent flow, because water won't freeze if it's moving. So they can do that. Also, if they're going to leave home, they need to weatherize their outside spigots, and then make sure you close your vents for your crawl spaces at your house, and we're doing extreme cold weather so the cold air won't get in and freeze those particular lines. And then once the weather warms back up, you can open those vent spaces back. Is what we can do on the residential side. On a private business side, like a warehouse, is they need to make sure their fire line pipes, because that's the one that's most critical, those are weatherized or winterized to make sure they don't freeze. Cast iron doesn't handle cold weather at all, so those will immediately break once water freezes. It starts to expand, so it can't be contained in the pipe once it's frozen.
How long is the boil water advisory to be in effect?
Sir, say that again.
How long is the boil water advisory to be in effect?
The boil water advisory, hopefully, prayerfully, we'll be lifting that in the morning. Once we do the samples, the bacteriological analysis have an 18-hour run time. You have an 18-hour test and you have a 24-hour test. We're going to go with the 24-hour option this time because we want to try to expedite getting the water back on. So the samples should be read like 2 a.m. in the morning. So we'll be issuing that to the press by the time you do your 6 o'clock run time in the morning.
What is the normal PSI for our water system, and where are we at now?
We normally run around 50 PSI from the system as a whole. Right now we're in that 50. You might have a couple of spots that may be a tad below 50, but we're 50 system-wide. If you're closer to a water plant or elevated tank, then your water pressure is a little bit high because you get that extra force from the elevated tank and the water production facility. But in the system as a whole, we operate and try to maintain a 50 PSI system-wide.
Are all the groundwater plant or facilities online?
Yes, sir. The ones that were off are now turned on and operating. Yes, sir.
And we still have the surface water?
Yes, sir. Surface water facilities also operating. Yes, sir.
How many customers were impacted?
That was system-wide. We presently have a little over 34,000 customer taps, which is approximately 80,000 customers. So we did the advisory for the entire system as a precaution. But if there are some folks who didn't experience any major or significant drop-off in the system, but because we didn't know exactly during the initial phases where or if we had a problem, we thought it would be as best to put everybody under precaution, even though they didn't have an issue at that present time.
Any guesstimation on how much water was lost, like gallon-wise?
Gallon-wise, we've lost over the last couple of days approximately 20 million gallons.
How many small issues does it take to get that kind of a pressure drop through the whole system?
Well, you can do like a simple, if you take 20 gallons per minute, and it's 1,440 minutes in a day, and that's going to give you approximately a little over 6,000 gallons of water. And if you have 500 or 600 customers, you're over a couple of million gallons of water just with having 500 or 600 customers out of 34,000 customers. That'll be a significant impact when you add all those up together.
Water bills probably will be a little higher for some people. Is there a way they can maybe come to you and say, hey, we're out of town, we didn't know about this, maybe get a break?
Well, we do have a payment system set up where if you don't have an issue more than once a year and you come in, we do a challenge bill, and that's handled through our finance department. But if you are a customer who've had multiple issues, then that's a different story. But we would still figure out a way to work with those particular customers on that in those situations.
What was the main problem at countywide? Timmonsville, was Florence, was Lake City?
Lake City is a separate system altogether. They have their own system. The issue was west of Irby Street and east of I-95. So kind of in that central to western portion of our system. Timmonsville was fine. In the far east part of our system, Old Marion Highway, East Palmetto by Paper Mill Road. That part of our system was fine. So the extreme west and extreme east portion of our system did not have the significant issues, but it was between Irby Street significantly and west of Irby and east of I-95 where we had the majority of the issues.
So all the fire departments, and I think I could ask you, all the fire departments, everybody's good with water in case they need to go out to fight fires?
Yes, sir. And what we did on those, all the systems maintain hydrant flow. And what we did, we just isolated elevated tanks to make sure we kept the system pressurized and we communicate that to our fire department so they'd be aware of those particular situations. And now we are slowly recharging the elevated tank, so our fire flow will be back in full effect in the next day or so.
Do you guys have any idea how much this is going to cost the city with overtime that you guys have had to, since you've had to mobilize everybody?
We haven't sat down and calculated the full cost of staffing, but that's just part of doing business, so that's not a cost that we are worried about at this point in time. The biggest thing is going back and identifying the adjustment and notifying the public for this situation and into the future whenever a major winter freeze, because we're still just starting winter started last week. As we get into January and February, what precautions to take, and then we'll make sure our staff is doing a better job of looking at, paying attention to the system and try to give us early alerts when they see trends that might be occurring so we can make proper adjustment to the system, try to minimize the impact to our customers.
Now, about 4 o'clock on Christmas Day was when we first noticed it. What was the situation that the stemmed all this? Just get started. Did you guys just start getting calls about low water pressure? Or
Yes, sir. We started getting calls about low water pressure, and then so we mobilized staff, and staff reported, and then we got out and started looking. We divided the city up into 4 quadrants, so we sent employees in every section of the city to identify on our main 36-inch line that leaves our surface water facility, that comes down Williston Boulevard and goes down Old Marion Ashby Road, looking at the 18-inch water main along Pisgah Road, that's on the western side of the system, Ebenezer Road, and then our 12-inch along Paper Mill Road and River Road. So our focus was on our major lines in the system, and we didn't find any issues there. So once we identified no issues on the major lines, then we started looking at the smaller lines in the system and narrowing our way in from that perspective.
How long have these pipes been? Is it an aging system? I mean, are they fairly new pipes, fairly old pipes? I know the Darlington had the issue with all their busting because they're so old.
Well, we've identified more leaks on the system, but the majority of the leaks that we've identified are on service lines and not the mains themselves. So our water mains are holding up. In the age in our system, we've got new water mains that were just put in this year, and we've got mains that have been put in for years. So we have a varying degree of age within the system, and we got some forthcoming projects early next year where we'll be installing new mains in certain parts of our system. So we're in the process of doing projects, and we do projects on an annual basis where we replace and change out water mains within our system.
Did it expose any vulnerabilities that the city maybe has to go back and look at for future projects and infrastructure?
Yes, sir. We'll look at, just like we're working with Rural Water this morning, and coming in and putting additional pressure sensors on the system that are automatically alert us instead of for us to go into a system. So we identified some additional alert system that we'll be looking at and putting those on the system that are automatically, whereas now the automated meters that we have in the system with the pressures, we have to manually go into the system and look at those. They don't automatically ring somebody's cell phone or email. So we'll be updating that system that we'll get automatic alerts and not have to wait for staff to dial into the system to identify those particular alarms.
Can I have your name, your title?
Michael Hemingway, Utility Planning and Economic Development. Sorry about that.
Get the biggest raise of anybody in the city right now. Mayor, make that happen.
No, sir. It's a team effort. We want to thank the employees. They sacrificed their Christmas day to come back to work. So big kudos go to those staff employees who were out in the weather doing the hard work. And we also want to thank, as the mayor mentioned, our partners with AECOM Engineering, CDM Smith Engineering, South Carolina Rural Water, Complete Utilities, where those folks didn't have to come and help us and make sure we were looking at all the things in the proper manner, but they made those sacrifices to lead their families as well. So those are the people who deserve all the credit. This is just part of what we do as the City of Florence and in our roles and position as employees of the city to provide the highest level of customer service as we possibly can.
How important, my only question, how important is it for people to hop on the website to let you know that you see a leak at your neighbor's house that's been out of town for 2 or 3 days, to kind of get this problem more corralled?
It's very important. Just as Michael just stated, when you think about the fact that we have a system that we're working with, but the most important thing is the human eye, because you can identify exactly where the leak is. You can call us in, tell us that address, and then we can immediately send service out there. So that is why it's very important. Citizens, please continue to watch. Just as Mr. Hemingway stated, we're just getting into winter. We still got January and February to go through, and it requires a team, just as Mr. Hemingway stated. As a city, we work together as a team. It takes every one of us working together to make sure the city is healthy and strong. And so I do want to acknowledge, I want to thank Mr. Hemingway for his faithful service, because I also believe that when you have great leadership, your team is a great team as well. And stating that, I will call for our city manager, because he as well has been out there day to day or here coordinating everything, because I want to tell everyone, as a city, we have some of the best leadership there is. And most important, when you listen to Mr. Hemingway just now, when he talked about working together and it takes a team, that is the attitude which has made the city successful. That is also the attitude of many of our citizens who have been so supportive. So we want to thank our citizens and ask you to continue to watch your city. Call in so we can do what's best for our city together. And on that, I want to bring forth our city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good morning. It's been quite the challenging and frustrating 72 hours. And, basically what I want to say is, we are aware of the inconvenience and the frustrations that the water issues have caused our citizens and our customers. And we take that extremely important. And that is why we, as soon as we were notified or made aware of the situation, that we mobilized as many of our employees as possible to start combating the issue. This is probably the one time, and Michael might laugh at me, this is the one time where I really wish we were looking at, a water main that blew part of a road out, because then there you know where it is. It has been extremely frustrating for Michael, Jerry, and their team to try to isolate the problem, the smoking gun, if you will, when it comes to this issue. And I will just like to reiterate what everyone else has said. Our citizens have been great. They, we asked them, if you see something, report it to us, and they did. And I want them to know that every report we received was investigated. And it turned up some additional leaks in our system. It also led us to some issues on private property, and we took every one of those tips very seriously, and we pursued them, and it helped. It helped narrow down potential causes of this. But basically, what I want to say is thank the citizens for their understanding. Yes, it's frustrating. I get it. We all understand that. We're just as frustrated as you are. And I'd like to thank the team that's working with us, both city employees and our contractors, to help resolve this issue and try to bring our system back to normal. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and we'll be more than happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
I have a question.
Okay.
If you guys discovered that there was a water leak and there was an issue on Christmas Day, what took so long to just have news press? I understand you say get to the media, but what happens to that lady who's not on the media?
Okay.
The reason why we took this time to do a news conference is that the information we had was to come forward to say we have low water pressure. And that was not a reason to do a press conference. We notified through our social media that we were pursuing to find what was the cause was it. So when we called the press conference today, because we want to come forth to let our citizens know that the problem that you have identified with us was low water pressure, but we have identified now the source of why we have that. So it's important to come forward to let you know we have identified it, we're addressing it, the situation is improving, and also to acknowledge our partners. And then again, I will say, and I will request again, that your primary area to receive information live time for the city is to go to the city's Facebook page, check that page, because we will continually be updating there, but also visit the cityoflorence.com, because I know that everyone's used to having always this physical presence, but we want to keep you updated, not just through press conference, but as we are having issues, as we are addressing them, go to our social media, because that is how we will contact you and continually to put the information out. So tomorrow, when you look for things when it comes to, in reference to the ball water issue, you will have that on those sites. So you don't have to wait for a press conference. Please, if you haven't already done it, I will keep reiterating, like the City of Florence Facebook page. Also visit ourcityoflorence.com. That will be your primary area to continually get updated. But most important too, it gives you that opportunity where you can notify us of any issues, because our team is working. And as we're standing here now during the press conference, we still have city staff members, leadership who are out there continuously monitoring the situation to bring forth solutions. So press conference is just one form of communication we have. Please look at our social media and our website. That is how you will continue to get information from us. Are there any other questions? If not, once again, I would like to thank the citizens of Florence for all that you're doing. Special thanks to our city management and to our staff who have been on top of the situation since we became aware of it. And to all of our citizens, thank you for your patience. And I'm glad this morning that you can resume your showers and so forth. But I'm going to leave on this statement. If you haven't already done it, please like the City of Florence Facebook page and go to thecityoflorence.com. Those will be our primary source of communication for you throughout the year, not only when there's just an issue, but even with positive things. So please, if you haven't done it already, communicate with us by liking those sources and stay watchful and keeping us updated with the needs of the city. Thank you.